Hello, everyone. Welcome back to When Shooting's Life podcast. I'm your host, Kue Lee. Today, I have Justin Underwood, Ryan Carlson, and Richard Kavanagh. The topic for this episode will be about being a match director. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Very good.
Thanks for having me.
Of
Yeah, thanks
course,
for having me.
definitely. All right, so for the viewers that doesn't know who you guys are, can you guys give a quick background about yourself?
I'm Richard Kavanagh. I'm the match director at Minnetonka Game and Fish. I've been doing it 13 years. This is the start of my 14th year.
I am Ryan Carlson. I am the current vice president at MAPSA. I have been vice president there for this is going to be my 6th year. Yeah, that's it.
Justin Underwood, formerly of MAPSA. Last year was my last year. I think I was president for 3 or 4 years and secretary for 2. But the way MAPSA worked, it was kind of just all 3 of us doing it together. There's no really formal power structure. It's more just names, titles.
All right, so this is just my own question for myself. So the president is still considered a match director, right? Or does the president has his own title and match director has his own title, or is it all the same thing?
So at MAPSA, basically, we have like a board of directors that need to be positions that need to be filled by our bylaws. So currently, Tim is president. I am vice president. Luke Faust is the secretary, and Kayla Barden, who a lot of newer people probably don't know, but she has been our treasurer for the last 6 years. She is an actual accountant and probably has saved us from countless issues by
Keeps
just
us from going to
basically
jail.
handling our finances. So huge thank you to her. But as far as like Tim generally right now will take the role of match director.
Mhm.
You know,
Okay.
I mean, when you're running like a club match, it's, I don't know if I can't remember if the USPSA rules require you to have a quote match director, but he assumes that role, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
and admittedly, I mean, Tim is currently the driving force, behind MAPSA and is our fearless leader. And we, not that we all don't do, contribute, but he is, you know, he's the man. He's the man with all the energy and with the plan.
Yeah.
So we just,
Me
go
and
along
Ryan
and do what we can.
Me and Ryan would have ran 7 or 8 kick-ass monthly matches, and that would have been the end of it for MAPSA.
Right. So, but yeah, obviously it's great, and the club has grown exponentially, and we couldn't be happier about it.
All right. Shout out to Tanfo Timney. All right, so let's go ahead and answer our first question. So the first question is, what made you decide to be a match director?
Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear Rich's answer on this.
Okay. Well, the guy that was doing it before walked up to 3 of us one day and he said, I just want to let you guys know this is my last year doing this. And we kind of looked at him and smiled. And he looked back at us and went, no, you guys don't understand. This is my last year doing this. So we kind of talked between the 3 of us. And as a team, we decided to pick it up. Uh, Basically, we didn't want it to die out there. And it was a learning experience right from the start, but that's how I got started because the other guy was quitting. And he'd been there 14 years also.
Okay.
So that's basically an identical story to how me and Justin got into it. Was the previous person that was running MAPSA said that they were done, and there was really only 2 choices. It was either me and Justin step up and handle it, or the club would go away. So necessity I would say is probably the biggest driving force for me personally. In obviously there's a challenge associated with it that us as humans always want to see if we can rise to the occasion. So that's my opinion on it, and that's what we did.
Yep, basically. And I don't even know who was running MAPSA before Isaac and Kayla. I don't think they only ran it for a year or two. Rich probably knows more background on MAPSA than me and Ryan do.
Yeah, there was a couple other guys that ran it, and I know Kayla and Isaac took it for a while, and it moved clubs for a while, and now it actually at one point it was out at Minnetonka Game and Fish about 18 years ago.
It's been at basically every club that you can think of in the state. I know that when we would set up the points match up at Gopher, we found a fault line that had MAPSA paint on it. And I know that like we found a flyer. Somebody found a flyer from like 1981, I think. Is that
I think
too
we
old?
found it maybe it was 85 in the Connex boxes when we moved to Forest Lake.
When they were running it out of the University of Minnesota range, which I believe was in Lake Elmo, maybe.
Oh, that I don't know because I started in about 18, 19 years ago.
Okay. Either way, MAPSA is, I think, the oldest still running USPSA club in the state. I could be wrong because we're MN02. No, we're 2. Yeah.
2.
I think. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
I don't know either.
Anyway, that's enough history.
So can anyone be a match director, or is there like a voting thing you have to do?
Anyone can step up and be a match director, but there's a difference between being a match director and being a good match director, I think. And I know some of your other questions will get into it a little.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a bit. All right.
Yeah. So like I guess, if there's an existing club that needs somebody to run it, then as far as, requirements, it really that depends on the club, I suppose. If they do have a board of directors or a group of members that votes on that sort of thing. I mean, in my experience, you can't give it away barely. So my assumption would be is that if you are currently drawing breath and there's an opportunity for you to be a match director somewhere, then you could be one. Now, whether or not you're successful is, another topic, I guess. But, obviously you need to have experience in practical shooting, but I would assume that if somebody is asking you or you have the opportunity to be a USPSA match director, you probably have practical shooting experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't just wander the streets looking for people to run matches as much as we sometimes would like to.
And we've helped each other out. I know I've actually been match director for a MAPSA match and a couple Forest Lake matches over the years too.
Yep.
Somebody couldn't fill. So we've helped each other out that way too.
Yeah. My actual first experience running a match was covering a weekend match at Forest Lake, probably a year into my shooting when Mike Hall and Justin Bach decided they didn't want to do it. Me and Bob Linder ran it.
Okay. All right. So before I ask you guys the next question, I just want a simple answer, yes or no. Do you guys make any money being a match director?
It costs money to be a match director sometimes too.
All right.
It's a losing deal because inevitably you buy something and you don't remember the receipt, or you buy something that you bought with other stuff and you're like, this was only 20, 30 bucks, whatever. Like, I'm not worried about it.
Half days off of work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the question. Is being a match director worth it when you don't make any money from it?
Absolutely. Just to see that people enjoy coming to your matches and shooting them and hearing what a great time they had and how they enjoyed the stages and how smoothly it went. It's pretty rewarding.
I agree with that. It's a rewarding thing, and it's that you're helping to continue the sport, because without people running the matches, I mean, you know, we both gave examples of basically where clubs would have gone away.
That's why
without
Gopher
somebody
doesn't
stepping
exist
up.
anymore.
You know, so like, it's there's certainly no monetary reward to it, but as far as all other aspects that you can be rewarded in life, I would say it provides you with some of that, you know.
And I agree. And I think some of it too, as a whole, the majority of the shooters are very appreciative of all the work we do, you know, and that in itself is rewarding.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I'm not a match director, but I do appreciate all you guys putting in that work for us. So the most we could do is just paste and tear down the
Tear down.
stages.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So how do you guys balance life, work, family, shooting, and being a match director?
Well, for me, the first and the biggest thing is that my wife Bree is absolutely wonderful. You have to have a spouse that is willing to put up with, you know, sometimes not being able to do all of the things that we want to do because I have other obligations. Um, it's also convenient that my wife works on Saturdays. So that running matches on Saturdays, like that doesn't, you know, isn't a big deal. I also am lucky in that my employers are very good people and flexible and understand sort of what I'm doing. They have similar obligations. So they get, if I got to take a day off or I got to leave early to go set up, you know, they never have ever questioned it at all. So those are really the two things that you need is a flexible home life and then flexible employer. And I am lucky to have both. So,
yeah, not having small children helps.
Yeah. I think that, and that kind of goes to the reason so many match directors are on the older side. You know, we're a little bit more stable without having kids that we have to take to sporting events and everything. Like definitely when my kids were younger, I couldn't have done this and everything. And to Ryan too, I was able to take a couple hours of vacation before every Wednesday so I could go out and set up. And
Yeah, the reason why I asked that question is because like one day I would like to be a match director too. Um, I don't think maybe not a match director, but like just help design some stages. But I got little kids, and I don't see that happening anytime
If
soon.
you
So
if you want to design stages, cool, design them and give them to Rich, give them to me, give them to
okay,
Ryan.
okay,
If there's something wrong with them, we'll tell you. If they look great, you can show up for setup and put it on the ground yourself if you want.
okay. Well,
right. Or if you want to design stages and then you're not there for setup, you know, we're always willing to let people, you know, try their hand at it, because the fact of the matter is that everybody that designs stages is a little different, and having more people involved is always good because everybody kind of has their own different flair or flavor, and the more the better. So
and even as a new stage designer, one of the things you have to be open to is when we put them on the ground, they might get adjusted a little bit.
mhm.
I know every one of us here has a different flair of how we build stages and everything. They don't always go down identical to what the paper is.
No.
right, right.
So speaking of stages, do you guys have like a booklet of all these stages, or do you guys just freestyle all these stages during like setup?
No, they're
No,
just
no,
we
they
don't
get
do
designed
that.
ahead of time.
Rich might do that.
Rich is like, yeah. I
Yeah,
have I have over 800 stages
Okay.
of paper, and I'll go through them. And I'll also sit. I've got a 3D stage builder.
Okay.
I might do it, like on a Saturday, or if I'm bored watching TV, build a couple stages just to make them and give them a try.
Glass
Okay.
of whiskey, build a stage.
Yeah, you can tell when I've hit this third glass.
yeah, and I build on 3D Stage Builder too.
Same as me. Yeah.
Yep, and I mean, I'm a little different in that I take a long time to design stages because I guess I don't know why, but I'll build a stage on my bench, and then I usually leave it on my bench for at least a week, and then I'll monkey with it pretty much every night and try and I'm probably more of a perfectionist in that regard. Then it's probably helpful because it certainly lowers the volume of stage output that I have. Luckily, Tim produces lots of volume of stages, so we always have stuff. You know, it kind of comes down to kind of how you want your match to flow, what you need, you know, how much help you think you're going to have. So it's good to have a large number of stages sort of in a folder that you can tap into to be able to produce the match that you want to produce.
For a weekly match, that's really important for me because there's times I get busy on a weekend or something, and Tuesday night comes and I need 4 stages.
Yeah.
And I just go to the pile of stages I've got and I start sorting through. And also, because I've got different size bays, so I can't put the same stage in every bay. So how do I, balancing that out? So I do a lot of that. And then when I build stages for me, Ryan's really good at it. He's positioned, but a lot of times I'll just have a couple of things I want to do, and the rest of the stage is kind of fillers, extra shots, but a couple of things I want to see in that stage.
Okay.
Right. Everybody that designs goes into it with a different mindset. And like it's at first, when I first started designing stages, I found it was pretty easy. I think because I had a lot of ideas in my head, but then you start running out of ideas. So for me, it's become more difficult the more stages that I've designed. I guess it's just like anything. Some days things go easy, and other times, like, I can't build anything that I think is good to save my life. I've thrown out probably just as many stages as I've produced, because like, I'm just like, these aren't good. Like, this isn't what I want,
I just make them and send them, and if you don't like them, you don't like them. If you don't, you don't. You do, you
Sure,
do.
like I say,
I just put them in a folder, pick out of these.
My tactic is probably not as helpful as it could be. But here I am.
Yeah.
Well, Tim will sit down in an evening and build 8 stages in 4 hours, and it takes me probably 45 minutes to make one that I think is a workable stage.
Yeah, Tim will build 8 stages for 4 different matches for 3 different disciplines.
Yeah.
So this might be a stupid question, but you guys can't mix the USPSA target and the IPSC target together, right?
No,
not on
one
a
stage?
single
Okay.
stage.
Okay. But
Within a
then
match, you can.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
you got to
All right.
commit to one or the other.
Yeah, okay.
For each stage.
Okay. Do you guys ever feel like quitting? If so, what would be the reason why you guys want to stop?
Well, I can speak to the quitting because I just did. It just gets, everyone knows it's a huge commitment to have to be at setup every week. And, when I'm not there, I feel like I'm letting everybody down. So it's basically the constant commitment to, I have to be here on this day. I have to do this. It's nothing about running the matches or the shooters at the matches or the guys that I work with, none of that is any reason why I wanted to quit. It's just, I just felt it was, 5 years, not as long as Rich, but I think I put in some time, and the work that me and Ryan did at the beginning of taking over maps, I think took its massive strides and gave the reins to Tim, and he's running with it.
Right. I would question anybody's sanity that was a match director and said they didn't feel like quitting.
Oh, yeah.
In Tim or Justin, kind of hit it right on the head, I guess, for reasons for quitting. And it would be just the time commitment. It has nothing to do with the work itself. It has to do with the amount of time that it takes to do the work. And like, that's really all that it is. It's fun for sure to do it, but sometimes we also want to do other things that are fun with our lives. And, you know, if the matches and stuff are getting in the way of that, which they inevitably do, then, you know, you got to at some point decide to hang her up. And more to that, I mean, realistically, what we do, we're pretty busy at MAPSA now, but, you know, like when we first started, we ran 7, 8, 9 matches a year, and that was it. Which isn't that much of a commitment compared to like what Rich does with running a weeknight. Like I always say, I couldn't imagine running a weeknight. Like that's a whole nother animal, you know.
And that's kind of I've had those times where it's almost burnout and everything. And I've slowly, you know, I've gotten better over the years. The other thing I started doing, I went probably for 10 years without taking a Wednesday off, like no week-long vacations. I do 20 to 22 matches a year. So I was pushing a lot. In the last couple of years, I take a week off, you know, I'll go vacation somewhere. And this week I'll probably be taking 2 weeks off. And I felt bad because, you know, you feel like you're letting your shooters down, but at some point it's like, you know, you got a life.
Yeah.
Right.
Enjoy things, some are short.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
You're gonna have to start looking for somebody to take the helm for you there at Minnetonka, Rich.
Yeah, and that's one of the things this year will definitely be brought up. Somebody to start grooming and maybe somebody to do a couple of matches too.
Yeah. That would be a perfect introduction to match directing is, I mean, you already have everything laid out and set up. It's like, here's what we're doing. Do it.
Yeah. And there's other with the match directing, you guys all know just these scoring tablets, get it and everything right.
Yeah.
Up at Total Defense this year, with Practice Score 2, we had a problem. The Kindles weren't all on the same rev, and they wouldn't give you a score. You could enter it. So luckily, I had more of them and was able to go back to the old way and program it. But I mean, there's headaches doing that.
Right.
Always something.
Always something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a match director, but I think the hardest thing about being a match director is setting the stages up when the weather is not right. You know, and most outdoor matches are usually like out of the city. So if you live in the city, you still have to drive like an hour, 40 to an hour just to get to that area. And then you set up in the, you know, in the heat. And I think I think that would kill my vibe of being a match director. All right. So next question is, what kind of traits do you think a person need before they start running matches?
Well,
I think
go ahead, Ryan.
I think you know, like I said earlier, you got to have some experience being a competitive shooter and, you know, being at matches. I mean, you can't be super new and expect to be able to run a match successfully because you just kind of have to know how things are supposed to go, sort of the expectations of, you know, what needs to be done. So, and I can't, you know, I couldn't tell you how long that is as far as, you know, how much experience that you need, because everybody would be different. And then also you have to be in a position where you can make the sacrifices of time that are necessary in order to do it. You know, like those I think are probably really the only two things. And then realistically, trying to just, you can't do it alone. Like it's not, you know, I mean, I guess you could, but you'd be nuts. You got to have people that are willing to go along with you. You know, they're too much work to be trying to do it solo. So, and to that end, you probably need some sort of mentor also, you know, that that has experience to kind of show you the ropes, because the learning curve would be real steep if you just showed up with practice score on some tablets and, you know, some target stands. Like you'd have a bad time. So
I'd like to add something else with Ryan. Somewhat decisive too.
Yep.
The match director can't be wishy-washy, because
sure.
majority of our shooters are type A personalities. They're all pretty easy to get along with unless they have a problem, and they're going to start pushing. And you've got to stand your ground. And if you make a decision, stay with it. And what I mean is, like, if you set up a stage and someone says, well, this would be better and stuff, it's your stage. You leave it the way it is. If there's a call or something's going on, you might have to go out there and mitigate it, talk to people. We've all know there's guys that have gone out there and moved targets on our stage after we've had that. We won't say any names. But
We talk about that afterwards, Kue.
yeah. But you need to be able to stand up to those guys.
Yeah.
And tell them this isn't right.
Right.
I've seen a lot.
Yeah. You're correct, Rich. You
Yeah.
you have to be able to be some of the characteristics that you would call a leader,
Yeah.
Leadership characteristics, attention to detail, the ability to plan things out in advance is important.
And
And I think you also have to have a personality that's generally sort of likable.
oh, yeah.
And that goes back to the whole, you can't do it alone,
Yeah.
You like,
You do have to be willing to take help from other people. That's for sure.
right. Like, and you have to have people that are willing to help. So if you're not a likable person, nobody is going to want to help you. So then you got problems, I mean, there's so many things that we do at MAPSA that other people contribute to, even outside of, what you would call like the board or the match directors or the people that you see up at the front at shooters meetings,
Yeah.
I mean, we have such a network of people that help,
Yeah. Tyler
Ben
Bain.
Anderson just did our match book for the Northwoods,
Tyler Bain puts in a ton of work.
right. Robert Gale cuts all the steel that we need for Tim making targets. Like it is decidedly a group effort. So some of that fits into that personality thing where you gotta,
Delegating.
you gotta be a somewhat likable guy.
And as match directors from different clubs, we do bounce things off each other. We do talk to each other about what's going on and different things. There's been issues with shooters or different things that we've all talked about and come up with a solution to it.
Right. It is decidedly a team effort for sure, in Minnesota anyways,
Yep.
I have no idea how it works in other states, but I know here we all help each other out and try and get everybody's match full to the best of our abilities.
Do you guys think is better to make the shooter prepay for the match or pay during the match?
I am a big
never ran Stripe.
I'm a big
I was
fan of
running
Stripe.
Stripe. I didn't use Stripe. I just had everybody pay at the match. Seems to be going prepay. I don't think it's a good idea to mix the two, because then you have to keep track of who paid online and who's supposed to be handing you cash every day or every match. And I think Tim is taking everything with MAPSA now to prepay, but I don't know.
We are all on Stripe now, on prepay, on practice score. And like, admittedly, we've had a couple guys that like show up to the match that didn't register, and like, we're not going to turn people away because they didn't pay online, because that's crazy too. But the electronic payment thing certainly helps for bookkeeping.
It also eases a little bit of, I mean, you see me sit at that table for 45 minutes before every match trying to make change for people, and guys come in with hundreds and I got
Right.
stack of fives. It's like, what are you doing to me here?
Yeah, especially if your match fee ends in a 5, then you got to go get $5 bills before every match. Like, and you hope if you don't, you hope some people have 5s, but like, yeah.
It is a pain because, as you guys know, I only take cash. The club's not set up yet with any sort of credit card payment. So, and then the other thing is, I probably get 15% of my people most
Walk-ons.
nights that are walk-ons.
Right. Right. And like, like mostly to Justin's point, you got to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
The mix that we did mix, I think last year.
Last year he started using Stripe, and it was a kind of a cluster for a little bit there.
Yeah.
Because I know it's hard to tell who paid. I know there isn't an easy way to see who paid by Stripe unless you print it out.
Yeah.
Right. Unless everybody that registered had to pay with Stripe.
Yeah.
So. Right. The mix is tricky.
Yeah, there's a few clubs that are 100% Stripe, and there's a couple of clubs still 100% cash.
Right.
Yeah, just my opinion. I think prepaying would be the better option, just so that for sure that the shooter they're committed to come to the match, compared to if there's no prepaid, they could not show up, and then next thing you know, you don't have enough shooter for the match. And Ryan, I'm pretty sure you don't remember this because I know that you run into a lot of people. But during my very first match was in 2021, and I show up to at MAPSA, Forest Lake, and I didn't know that it was cash only. But then you let me shot for free because it was my first time. So
okay.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure you don't remember it, but that was a long time ago.
I don't, but that sounds like something I would do.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, just to be clear, all new shooters at MAPSA get to shoot their first match for free, so he wasn't being that generous just to you.
Yeah,
right.
And
but even if that wasn't the case, the two options of either turning you away or just you shooting for free, and then me just not having to deal with it anymore would probably just be like, shoot for free. I have other stuff to do.
We do that at Minnetonka too. New shooters get to shoot for free, and I let juniors shoot for free.
Okay.
There you go, Kue. Juniors shoot for free.
Yeah.
And Rich going out to Minnetonka would be a great place for you to bring your boy for his first match.
We kind of had this talk on the messenger. I do want to go to Minnetonka, but I live in Woodbury, and you guys start like at 5:30, right? Or 6? Yeah.
About 5:15 actually.
Yeah, the rush hour just to get there.
Sure.
It's such a horrible drive. So that's why I could never make it to Minnetonka or Scapsa. So that's why I usually just go Pine Island, just because it's a straight road down south from where I live. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just need to pick a weeknight match and then just kind of commit to that and go to the one that's the most convenient. I mean, realistically, I live in Champlin, so Minnetonka is convenient for me. And even for me, I live work in Northeast Minneapolis, and driving to Minnetonka on Wednesday nights can be a nightmare, So, but I that's just what I do. And like, it's fine, but I get it for sure.
You were gonna say something, Richard?
Oh, I was thinking. Sorry, I kind of stalled. I slip into neutral. It's not good.
All right. So the next question is, during your first match when you directed it, who helped you and how did it go?
I don't remember that, other than I can 100% guarantee that Rich helped.
Rich helped. Ryan, our first actual USPSA match that me and you ran together was a points match during COVID. And we had to switch it to Forest Lake because some lovely people at Beaverbrook wouldn't tell us if we could have it or not.
I thought we ran a full season before COVID.
I don't think so.
I think we did, unless I was just helping Isaac and Kayla. it all blends together.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I can guarantee for sure is that Rich helped. Like that's I just
Rich helped. David Sweeter from SCAPSA reached out to me personally and offered any assistance, gave me lots of advice on how to run the match.
Yeah, the COVID times, that was when we were for sure when we were very new.
Yeah.
Was interesting and troublesome because we were running out of Beaverbrook, and Beaverbrook wouldn't let us do anything. So Ron at Forest Lake said, we'll just have the match here. So we just used all of Forest Lake's props and set the match up and, did our thing.
I think we gave them $3 a shooter.
Right. And then the next year, that winter is when we moved to Forest Lake because we were tired of the stuff that was going on at Beaverbrook. The COVID stuff is what it is scenario, but there was some other stuff that happened that wasn't good. So we took our toys and went to Forest Lake. And I don't even know for sure if Beaverbrook knows we've left.
I emailed them and they never responded.
Yeah, like we didn't tell them we were leaving. We just hauled our cans out of there and we were gone. And I have no idea if they were.
Yeah, that was a great move for you guys, though, moving to Forest.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Ron made it so easy.
Yeah. It was an absolute game changer as far as MAPSA goes. Working with the people at Forest Lake is super easy, and they're all super good guys, and obviously their facilities are spectacular. So we couldn't do we would not be where we are today without being at Forest Lake. Like that's all there is to it.
Yeah, my first match, the three of us were doing it together at that time, and we actually met during the winter and picked stages out for every day. We had every day set up, and it worked okay. The hard part is we didn't make changes.
You pick all of your stages before?
We had
months before.
Yeah, we did them all and stuff. And then, as we got a little bit better, you wanted to try something new.
Yeah.
Well, it caused, but yeah, we had them labeled by date and everything. And when I started at that time, we were still doing paper scoring.
Yeah.
So
were all of three of you engineers? Is that how you were able to pick all of the stages 3 months in advance?
I don't know how we did. No, one was a police officer, one was a business owner, and then myself. So yeah, we had two smart guys and me. But,
that's not true.
Well, it was fun. A lot of mistakes were made. We tried to make the stages real complex and things like that. That was my first points match. I hauled out every mover you could possibly have, all my steel and everything. Yeah, and that match took till 3:30. Never again.
Right. I mean, and like that reminds me of a point that I wanted to bring up, was just that, when you're doing this, you learn every match that you run, you learn something, like, which is part of what makes it rewarding, and part, like you have to be adaptable as well, both to situations that arise when you're building the match, when you're running the match, and also even just the technological advances. There's some people that resisted practice score. Now I've only shot one match in my life on paper. They screwed my scores up.
Yeah.
So I can't attest to the way things used to be, other than not that great. But that kind of thing, if you go into it with the mindset of, this is how it's always been, so this is why we're going to do it like that, that's going to eventually lead to problems.
Practice score was probably one of the best things that ever got done.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I've never shot a match on paper, so I can't say anything about that, but I can't imagine just using at like section matches with the paper scoring. It's like, this is how you did everything. This is ridiculous.
Well, and that's, they talk about that 1 hour arbitration. And
Yeah.
then everybody, they would print all the scores up and people would walk up there with their paper and look at it and to make sure it was entered, because it got entered on a piece of paper, then it got entered into the computer by hand.
Right.
Man.
Right.
Yeah.
It used to take an hour to get it all figured out.
Yep.
And now you get your stage scores in an email when you're
10 seconds after you're done shooting.
And then,
you know.
and before that, I mean, Minnetonka's got it. One of the sheds has got staples all over it. It was stapled up the next week. So
the results, you had to wait an entire week.
Yep, the result throughout the next week,
Right. Now we get upset if it's an hour before they're posted. We're like, what's going on?
Yeah. If they're not up before you leave the parking lot, there's a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
What kind of operation are they running?
I'm going to step out for 2 seconds.
Yeah. All right. So help me understand this. So I know that you guys are a club, right? Like MAPSA. Does Forest Lake make any profit from you guys?
Yeah, we pay Forest Lake.
Okay.
Yep, per shooter.
Okay.
We have
Yep,
$7 a shooter now.
Yeah, that's a Tim question. I don't remember. Yeah, it's something like that, 7 or 10 or something.
As we've grown, the value has gone up.
Yeah. Like I say, that Tim handles that because he's on the board of Forest Lake too. So I know he said,
I think it's 10.
Yeah.
It might be 10.
We just
and then
talked
for
about
the
this on Saturday.
bigger matches, that's 20.
Right. Yeah. So basically that's how we pay Forest Lake per shooter for our matches, but we are an independent club.
Yeah.
So as long as we pay Forest Lake and we keep things clean and we try keeping them happy is super high on the priority list, then everything is cool,
Yeah.
And then like when, they're having multi-gun nationals there, obviously Tim is heavily involved with that, but they can use our stuff if they run bigger matches, like it's a team effort, and Forest Lake does have their own USPSA club, the Forest Lake Practical Shooters Association, that run the weeknights, which I believe are on Mondays this year.
Yeah,
There's none weeknights.
every other Monday.
Every other Monday. Yeah. They just ran that big classifier match. It's Kevin Hartman, who's the MD there.
I thought they were just on weekends now.
No, my understanding is they're going to run on Mondays. Yeah, every other Monday.
Oh.
But again, that's what I heard, but I could be incorrect on that, I guess. So
It's at Minnetonka, all the money goes back to the club. So pay them, and none of the money is allocated to USPSA. So if I need things, I have to go to the club and tell them what I need. With that being said, though, they're always very open. If I want to do something, it's fine. And the majority of the time, it's just, okay, I bought targets, I bought lath, whatever, and they just pay me for it. I actually have a credit card.
Okay.
I just have to fill out, but
You're also on the board at Minnetonka too, right, Rich?
yes, I am a membership director at Minnetonka, so you should see your membership slips coming through.
Oh,
Renewal forms.
yeah.
Right.
They come in the mail?
Yep, and it'll be orange.
I don't even get my mail.
We'll talk offline. Rich is retired and has got some ideas.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's a good suggestion. Yeah, the mails. That's a problem already.
There's a guy in a blue shirt. He has a hat sometimes. He drives a small little truck. All right.
Yeah, but dude, I got to walk to my mailbox, probably like 200 yards.
No, have Bren do it. Just
So, and to Rich's point, like us at MAPSA, because we're an independent club that operates out of Forest Lake, we are a lot more flexible because we really only answer, to ourselves. I mean, and obviously our shooters and stuff, but like we don't have to get anybody's approval for expenses beside Kayla. Like if we have the money, you know, the money that we earn all goes back into the club to buy stuff, you know.
Besides the range fees that we pay to.
Right. Which is why we have a lot of cool stuff.
Mhm.
So, you know, that is a huge advantage to what we do at MAPSA versus I think all the other clubs that I know of in Minnesota are all operated like Rich's club is, where the gun club itself is responsible, or whatever, however you'd like to word it, for their USPSA clubs, and the money generated goes into the club's general fund essentially, and then expenses for the club have to come from that and be approved by such and such board members or whatever, you know. So
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So the next question is, what things drives a match director nuts?
Go ahead, Rich.
Go ahead, Rich.
Wait a minute, I got this list. All right.
He's got a 14-year-old list.
Yeah. And Ryan, it's on pen and paper. It's not on the computer. All right.
Good.
No, I actually, some of the stuff is I've had a few shooters come up and want to give me advice, and these are guys that never help out. All right, absolutely never help out, and that just I'm not gonna. I don't. I may listen, but I'm not gonna do a lot with that. If you want to do something, help me out. And my other extremely pet peeve is when I'm setting up, typically I've been there by 1:30 in the afternoon and I'm setting up, and then somebody comes along when the stage isn't done and starts doing their walkthrough while I'm still working. That will really torque me off. You know, if I'm still working, we're not done setting up the stage, at least help. You know, pick up a nail or something, drive it down. Yeah, that makes me really upset. And
what about when people, now it's not, hasn't been a thing since the new bays were built, but what about people paying on the wrong side of the table?
Oh, you can't. Yeah, you can't do that. Oh,
we all have our quirks.
That was started by the guy before me. You couldn't stand behind the table. You had to come in front.
Yep.
I kept that.
Yeah. So for me, I honestly, what Rich sort of said, like,
pretty much, yeah.
If you're gonna complain about stuff, you know, we got a match in 2 weeks. You want to run it, like, and then the answer is always going to be no. So, you know, and like, I'm not. People offer advice that is helpful, which is fine, you know, because obviously, like, there's people out there who, especially like there's issues with the stage. I'm very appreciative of somebody saying, like, hey, you guys missed your shoot through, or you can do this. You know, guys are leaning around this wall and like shooting all these targets, you know, stuff you missed. Like, that's fine, you know, but the people that want to move targets or whatever to make things easier or somehow benefit them, or like, this is unnecessary and not helpful. We don't have a big problem at MAPSA with people walking stages while we're setting them up because we set up on Friday. I imagine that if they did do that it would be extremely problematic for me.
Yeah.
I've never experienced that, but my reaction probably wouldn't be super friendly. You know, and we're lucky that we have the ability to set up on Friday, and we always get a huge crew. I mean, the last few matches I have to work on Fridays, so I usually leave work at about 2:30, so I get there at about 3, and I'll get there and they're basically done. Tim has Fridays off, so he gets there at about noon, and apparently nobody works on Fridays anymore besides me. So I get there and things are already pretty well squared away. But you know, we have a good crew of guys that are showing up on Fridays to get the thing in the ground. So we're very appreciative of that. but as far as I thought about this question, and I don't have too much to add.
No, there's not really much that your regular shooter can do to piss you off. It's, if you don't ever help tear down, that's really a problem for me. Obviously sometimes a guy's got somewhere he's got to go ahead and go. Not pasting is a problem.
Yeah.
Dicking around while you're supposed to be shooting is a problem, but I've never really, setting up on Fridays, we never have any issues with people because the people that are there to set up the match. So we don't have the same issues that Rich would have at his matches.
I've chased shooters out into the parking lot as they left and didn't help tear down. So I'm not beyond that. Sometimes
tear down is it's a tricky thing for us because we'll have 7-8 stages set up, and sometimes you'll have 3 stages tearing down at the same time, so it's real chaotic. And obviously all these stuff is trying to go into 2 Connex boxes and a bona fide tent, so there's definitely some stuff with teardown that gets me fired up, but it's not, it's mostly due to the chaos and, kind of people just not knowing. I always have this saying where it's like, I just say, so I just put this anywhere, which is just, goes back to like, people don't know where stuff goes. And if you're not directing them, they'll just put stuff anywhere. And that's not super helpful. So,
and that's the hard part, like maps. So you guys have it hard where people tear down the stage and put it on the trailer, but they don't.
Then they get in their car and leave. Yeah.
Yeah. We're working on that. We're working on that in our shooters meetings to make sure that is something that is less of a problem.
You could lock the gate until everything's put away.
Well, yeah, and like the biggest thing is just we need more people around in somebody in bays 1 through 3 to kind of coordinate that, and we're working on that. And yep, that's real boring inside baseball stuff that probably doesn't make for good podcasting. So
no, it's good. It's good. So Richard, how do you feel about people that doesn't help paste?
Oh my goodness! Someone must have brought that up to you.
It's spicy.
Yeah. I think everyone will tell you that I've walked up to more than one person and handed them pasters and told them the sticky side goes on the target.
I witnessed that. Yeah, that's why I have to ask you that. All right.
Hey, Rich, what do you say to your volunteers?
I tell them thank you. Anybody hear the rest? Thank you.
I do.
Thank you, and I won't need you next week. But no, pasting, resetting's hard because we've all seen it. We've been on squads where there's 12 people and 4 of us are really working. We're running the Kindles, we're ROing. Then the RO is out there pasting also. And a lot of ROs will paste just because they're at that target when they're done scoring. So they'll paste a couple. But we've all done that. And you see these guys back there working. And then we were the ones that were there early setting up and everything. And we're going to be the ones tearing down. And some of us, we don't pay a match fee. But good God, I don't know about you, but $15 isn't really cover my hour.
Right. Right.
I will pay you $15 if I don't have to paste.
Yep.
Yeah. That's why I always keep track of the points because I don't like pasting. I'm just kidding.
Well, but running the tablet
You're doing
is an important part of the operation.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure. That's doing something. That's not sitting at the back BS and loading magazine.
When you're 25 and you're standing in the back and I say, can you take this tablet? And you say, I don't know how to work it. Bullshit. You don't know how to work it. 25 years old.
Let me show you real quick.
Yep.
You can touch a screen. I know you can.
If you made it to the match, you can run the tablet.
Yeah. All right. Next question is, what do you guys think makes a good match and what makes it bad?
That's a good question, and something that I think about because it's hard to like it's hard to put a finger on, and like I'm interested to see what other people think the answer to that question is. I mean, besides the obvious, the greatest match ever can be ruined by rain. Like, I guess good stages and properly organized, no big backups. A pet peeve of mine is breaks for lunch. I don't like when we take lunch breaks, like you have to go to a separate area to eat lunch. Yeah. But then that being said, like Iowa does that, the Iowa section match, they do that every year. And that's a great one match. Of my favorite matches of the year. So like, again, it's hard to sort of quantify what that is, what makes a good match from a bad match, and there's certainly things that when you are experienced running matches that you notice that the average shooter probably does not from like an administrative side. But a normal shooter wouldn't notice that so much. So I don't know if that necessarily makes a match good or bad, like I don't have a great answer to this question. I'm curious to see what other people think.
I think a variation in stages. I've shot different places out of state and stuff, and we called one of them, we call it the Augusta Lean. The majority of their stages always had one. You would end up in a lean. You had to lean way around to shoot. All of them would end like that, and it's just. I like a variation. I like what Ryan does. He has a lower round count than what I typically do for stages, but he's shooting one target and there's positional. You might move 2 feet to the next target, 3 feet. And that's a lot more interesting than all the run, the same run and gun every time. So I think you need to mix the stages up. Maybe some side to side movement, maybe a run forward on a stage, just different things.
Right. Good variety for sure is one of the things that makes a match good for sure.
Yeah. Variety of stages and match flow really is. There's nothing worse than having a squad and a half left to shoot when you walk up to half a squad left sitting on a stage when you show up on a stage, and now you got 30 guys standing around bullshitting, and it seems to make it take even longer than it already has.
Weekend. Some of the weekend matches, you've seen that before, right? You go up there and there are 2 shooters in on a 12 person squad.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And it happens once they're backed up, it's every stage. You wait like that. And all of a sudden, it should have been over at 2:30s, over at 4 or 4:30.
Right. Once you start back, and it's pretty much impossible to stop.
Yep.
Yeah, another thing that makes a good match is just having everything, like when you're just the shooter at the match. This is the way I'm looking at it from is when I show up, I know who I'm supposed to talk to if I have to check in. Yep. I know which stage is which, how the match is going to flow, where I'm supposed to be. I can count on the tablets to be organized properly, and timers are here, there, It really would just start at the beginning of the match with the speeches that you see is that's actually what happens, take the box with you. All the tablets are in the box or leave everything at the stage. And most good matches have a good match director that'll stand up in the front and tell you how everything is going to go for the day. And that's how it goes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's Tim, but for sure maps, they email us like which bay we're going to be at and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah.
I like that.
Yep.
Okay.
That's Tim.
Okay. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's all stuff that we learned, over the years of doing it. I mean, you learn all of these things just by trial and error. And every time that we run a match, we learn something, and we learn how to be more efficient and what works and what doesn't. And then, you know, that goes back to that.
And some of that
being
stuff doesn't
flexible
even,
thing.
some of that stuff doesn't even apply to like Rich's Wednesday night matches, because
Right.
half the people, he doesn't even know they're going to be there. So he's going to have to enter people into the tablets as they're handing them $100 bill to pay his $15 match fee. And
Right.
they want to know which bay they're starting on. And
Every club is going to have its differences, and it's about the MD's ability to orchestrate all of that, you know.
All right. So you guys sort of answered this question already, but you guys could dive a little bit deeper into it. So when designing stages, what do you guys think about?
Like Rich alluded to, I like positional stages, and I like low round counts. I don't necessarily think that, you know, every stage has to be, you know, that more rounds equals more fun, if that makes sense. Why use two targets when one will work? And also, I'm a big fan in general of just short courses, like, you know, 8, 10, 12 round stages. I like what that challenges you to do as a shooter. So I design a lot of short courses. You know, I like that the difference in first and 25th is maybe a second and a half, you know, like, and you know, going into it that you got to be on the throttle the whole time. Otherwise you're going to be too off of the pace to even, you know, be competitive. I like the pressure that adds to the stage, you know, and especially like on bigger field courses, there's more of a running component often, you know, so if you're not super fast as far as like on your feet, you're already behind. And I feel like short courses with shorter movements is kind of a equalizer for everybody, if that makes sense. So I like short courses, and I like positional stages where you'll shoot one target from one spot, move a step or two, another target, maybe two, you know, that kind of style of stage is generally what my stages end up being, you know, after sitting on my bench for a week or two.
Well, Ryan's helped change me a little, not a lot. I used to be the 32 round guy. All right, I wanted 32 rounds, but what would happen is you were just throwing targets out there to throw a target out there. So today you'll see 26 to 28 on average for me. What I like to do a little bit is I like to offer some run and gun. So where you can come up, you can engage target while you're moving. And then maybe you have to start some jerky movements. I think you guys have all seen me with the spool in front of a port. So you have to start on the left, you have to move around. So it causes you to move.
Love the Minnetonka spool.
Yeah, the Minnetonka spool and there. But with some of the movement, like it'll give you a chance. You can take that target on the run and maybe shift to your left and take another one. So I like some of that. The new bays has also opened up a lot of distance shooting now. We can now shoot left to right 30 to 40 feet on each side. So that gives us different. We've had targets now back at 60 feet. And that makes a whole difference too. Throw a tuxedo at 60 feet and see how people talk to you when the match is over.
Take your mics and move on.
Yeah, but that's a little bit for me. I've been pushing the distance a little bit more, and I do like the running guns. But I think everyone has said this. Each club kind of has their own flair. You know, you could almost close your eyes and shoot a Minnetonka match and know where you shot it. You could go up to Scapsa and shoot one of their matches and know, yep, that was a Scapsa down to Pine Maps. You know,
right.
We all got our own little flair.
Right, and some of it too is what props are available for at the club. So you know, you generally you know, Rich, you like the spool.
I like this.
If you go down to
You
Pine
like-
Island,
You like
the
memory
odds are-
stages too, Rich.
If you go down
You
to
know.
Pine Island, odds are high you're going to open a door, more
Yeah.
than likely, or push a port open, like that. It's what you have available to you, and that's good. That's good that you can expect different things at different clubs. Like
Yep.
this is what makes the sport unique.
Oh,
It's a good thing.
in Minnetonka during the week, you won't find much for activators. You might find a swinger, and we've got a knockdown post for that. But activators just take longer to set up, and they take longer to reset. So
Right.
I don't put them out there much, and they fail once in a while. On a weekend match, you find a little more, but
Right, but then like on your bigger matches, you kind of pull back from them too because they can be problematic.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah. I mean, and like I like a swinger as much as the next guy. But certainly from a stage setup standpoint, they're just more work and they take more work to set up. So you have to plan accordingly to set them up.
And we've started. John's helped me a lot with this, but we've kind of had fun with the tape the last couple of years, the black tape and
Oh
paint.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fun is an operative word, I suppose, or a subjective word.
But I mean, for my points match, I had two pieces of tape right in the middle of the A zone, and it was set up so when you came around the corner to shoot that target, there it is. You're gonna pump it in the A zone, and there's black tape there, just forcing you to take a second to try to move your sights.
Right.
So we have a little bit of fun with that way. But again, like 80 stages a year, 80 to 90 stages a year, you got to do something different.
Yep. I guess when I design stages, what I kind of think about is stages that I've shot before and pull aspects from them that I thought were really interesting. Like it's a good thing for people that want to design stages to shoot other clubs to see what they're doing and take ideas from them. I also don't try to make things so difficult that your newer shooters are still going to enjoy themselves, but the good shooters are going to find challenges with either the planning of the stage or, a target here or there that are going to become difficult.
That's extreme. Yeah. That's really true with like me on a Wednesday. Over half my shooters don't shoot anywhere else.
Yeah.
They're there to have fun. So I've got to be careful. And sometimes I do push it, but 180s and like shooting around a wall where they might break 180. I'm pretty careful about that. MAPSA, you guys on a Saturday, the majority of those shooters shoot somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's their second match for the week. So those are typically a little better shooters.
Yeah.
Right.
And I can always tell because I play slower in the standings.
Well, there's more people there, Rich.
Yeah.
You just look up the super senior division and you'll be right up there at the top.
Right.
Yeah, you guys answered the question that I was going to ask you guys about the difficulty of their stages. So, well, I mean, I guess I could ask this too. So let's just say that you're running a match, right? And then you notice that most of the shooters that signed up are usually new shooter. Do you guys just tend to just pick out stages that are a little bit shorter, or you guys still add like big stages, or it doesn't matter?
No, it doesn't. We've never done
I just
that.
try to keep them in mind when I do it.
Okay.
Can they figure this out? Can they do this? Is it going to take them a minute and a half?
Right. And like one thing is with new shooters, I mean, shot difficulty isn't like that big of a factor as it is sort of like complexity and memorization. Like trying to remember. I'm not a huge memory stage fan.
I despise them.
So that you can really do some stuff that with like the memory thing that you can really scramble a new shooter's brain pretty good, which, you know, if you got a bunch of targets, you have to sort of remember what you shot and when, and you combine that with some uprange movement or some targets that are potentially right on the edge of 180, you know, you're going to cause some people to go home. So we try to avoid that, you know, keep that in mind all of the time, you know, like you can really, if you wanted to set a, like design a stage that just totally like screwed everybody up, you could do it, but you just wouldn't, you know.
One thing I guess I would say is if you know you have a lot of new shooters is loaded starts with guns on tables and barrels. I'm not a huge fan of that at all, ever. But
yeah, we avoid that. Yep.
Half of your match is people that shoot one match a month, and that's the only match they shoot. You know, I think you're just asking for problems.
I've actually at Minnetonka, we've had 2 discharges over the years with people picking up loaded guns. And so I won't do that anymore. I'll do unloaded. Yeah, because you could spin the gun 180, but at least it's unloaded.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think that the difference between a loaded and an unloaded barrel start as far as what it adds to the stage is negligible.
Right.
Like it doesn't, a loaded barrel start or table start doesn't really add anything versus an unloaded one. And there's a significant difference in the safety of the two things. So for us, the unloaded is the way to go.
Yeah. And then retreating stages. I know we still put them on, we still put them out there, but you do need to be careful with that.
Yeah, and I don't mind a retreating stage, but there's definitely some things that you have to think about in the stage design to make sure that you don't start getting real trappy, you know.
Yeah, that's another one is RO traps. You know, yeah, seeing that. I used to do solid walls, and now everything's fabric, so the RO can stand behind it and see that. But that's probably one of the things with an RO. Being an experienced RO, you're more aware of how somebody's going to shoot the stage and where to move. You can tell a new RO versus a seasoned RO.
Right. The other thing with retreat stages is that they can screw match flow up a little bit because people won't generally want more time on walkthrough, like when you first get to the stage, because you get so backed up trying to start up range that there's always that big pack of people right in like, so it generally just takes, you know, even if you're squad momming and trying to keep people moving, you know, you're still, it's a couple minutes longer because you're just not getting the walkthroughs that you feel like you need as a shooter. And also you're aware that everybody else hasn't either because of the big backup that occurs on an uprange start or downrange start.
And that's really a good point, you know, and that makes me wonder, is that something, we never do this, any of my matches, even maps on the weekends, we don't set timers or walkthrough time.
That was just going through my head too, Rich.
It's just like it's finally somebody gets tired of doing all the walkthroughs and says, all right, let's start.
Let's go. Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's like, you know, why I brought up like the squad mom thing, you know, like usually somebody, and we're working on that at MAPSA to have sort of every squad, one person that's kind of that is in charge of keeping everything moving, you know, squad captain or whatever your preferred term would be. But you're absolutely right, Rich. If the whole squad is left to their own devices, they may be taking 15 minutes before they fire their first shots on stage because nobody says, hey, let's move, you know.
I did that. I was over at a match over in Augusta, and I just waited. Scott and I were over there, and I just said, let's see how long they'll go. And there was 9 on the squad. They actually went 9. They went 9 minutes before one of the guy goes, maybe we should start.
Right.
You know?
If left to their own devices, some shooters will spend an exorbitant amount of time
Yeah.
Yeah.
doing their walkthrough. And
I could name them.
and legitimately not even realize that that's what's occurring. They're just doing
Yeah.
because they're so
No, it's
used to
definitely not
somebody
intentional.
saying, "Hey, let's go."
And we all know different people like this that will walk the stage for 30 minutes. We know people show up to matches 2 days early to walk stages.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. We do.
All right, so we're down to our last two questions. So the question is, does being a match director help you become a better shooter?
No,
God,
No.
it's only
It actually
detrimental.
hurts your shooting.
Yep. You never shoot as well as you can shoot at somebody else's matches as you do at the ones you run, because you never, well, everybody shows up early and is doing walkthroughs and getting an idea of, their stage plans and stuff. We're going around checking, make sure that
Pasters,
the
paint,
pace,
targets are up.
right, all of that stuff, and then even people always say like, "Oh, you designed this stage, you must have a plan for it." Like that's not really how
That's
it
not how
works.
you design a stage. No.
no.
I don't know what the plan is, and I really haven't even looked at this besides when it was on a 3D stage builder on my
Yeah.
bench. Like and that's sort of hard to explain why that's the case, but that is the case. Like
I used to think the same. I'm going to design stage and then I'm going to know exactly how to shoot it. That's not how it works at all.
And
I've
usually
designed
if you
stages and walked up to them, and Luke and Darrison have built them, and I look at them like, "Oh, I did design this stage, didn't I? How are we shooting this, Luke?"
right. And then the other thing too is if you design a stage and then you have some sort of stage plan in your head, it's never the actual stage
Yeah.
plan that you want once it's in the ground. Like it just doesn't,
Yeah.
unless it's a super simple stage. But like if there's any complexity to it, you're not. It just don't work like that.
And to Ryan's point though too, um, typically on a Wednesday, I'm there 3 to 4 hours before we start shooting, setting up. I got 5 miles in walking before we go.
Mhm.
And so being an old fat old man, it really takes a drain on you. But
Formerly fat.
the MAPSA guys, you guys are out there at 7 o'clock. You guys are the first ones there, and you're walking around. The match starts at 10. You know,
Right.
you've been there a long time.
Long time. Yep. Long time, and doing things that at all aren't related to your ability to shoot the match well.
Yeah, and
You're doing other things.
they may not be high stress, but there's a little bit of stress because you need to get things done on time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There's some stress and a sense of responsibility for sure to make sure that everything is good.
And then even during the match, you're getting the garden tractor with the trailer put where it
Yep.
needs to be.
Right.
We're walking around. I'm check. People got questions, or I need
Somebody
pace.
needs paint. Yeah.
Yeah, you're running and doing all that. So
Yep. So the simple answer is no.
No.
Yeah, I definitely agree
If
with
you
you guys.
Too, if you think you're going to be a match director and make GM, that's not how it's going to work.
Do that first.
His practice score
Yes,
does
make GM first.
Yeah, his practice score does check your edits. All right, everyone.
Right.
No. Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys because, because as the host or the match director, you guys are mentally fatigued before the match even started. It's just like if you were to throw a party, right? The only people that's going to enjoy the party is your guests, not you, because you're constantly busy making sure that the party is running well. So yeah, I definitely agree with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could think of it as like having a graduation party
Mhm.
or a birthday party for your kids or something for sure.
Yep. All right, so down to our last question. What changes have you guys seen as a long-time match director?
Well, if we're doing it for 6 years, I wouldn't necessarily consider that to be a long time. I mean, I think, we touched on practice score, and that's probably been the biggest change. I would say the only thing that I've noticed is the shift between cash and using cards. Like that's been the biggest shift. Where when we started, we were all We used cash. We even took checks. You know, not that we don't take checks now, but I don't know about you guys, but I haven't actually written. I think the last check that I wrote was my membership for Minnetonka, and I had to use a check for my wife because I don't own any check blanks.
That'll be your next check. That's your next check to write too.
Well, what you should do is get that. You need to get that Stripe account set up, and I'll slide you some money.
You need to do.
So yeah, that's the biggest thing that I've seen is just, you know, the switch in the way that people pay.
Yeah.
I will say one of the things too, though, I've seen over the years, age and quality of the shooters. Over the years, the age of the shooters have dropped, the average age. It used to be older people were shooting them. I mean, older, you know, they were 40 plus. You know, we had a few younger people shoot, but now we have quite a few younger people that are shooting in their 20s and 30s. And also the quality of the shooters has greatly changed.
Sure.
Nobody practiced before, nobody did training. And today there's dry fire training, there's all kinds of drills. The quality of the shooters, the classifier scores. If all you young guys hadn't started, I might have made GM. But right now I could barely speak, you know.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, just I've noticed that in shooting USPSA since 2017 is, you know, guys like Ben Eggleston come in and you just watch them, or Nathan Arndt or Matthew Rongstead. I mean, within a year, they're masterclass shooters. It's like, Jesus, how did you even do this so quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah, as a shooter, I used to watch like USPSA back in like the stages from like in the 90s compared to like in the mid 20s now till now. I noticed that the stage has definitely got harder and harder and more fun. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they used to just draw boxes. You can go from one box, shoot this, go to the next box, shoot this.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's the, you know,
that would be one thing that we would consider is a bad match now. When to go back to something we talked about earlier is box shooting.
Oh,
I think the average A-class shooter now would be pretty competitive at the 1995 USPSA Nationals. Like, you know,
very competitive. Gun quality. I mean, look at all the red dots that are out there. Carry optics, limited optics.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's true. That's been a big. I mean, when I first started, Carry Optics was a provisional division with 10-round mag restriction. It was essentially just production with an optic on it.
Yeah.
The speed alone. I mean, the only people that were getting under 20 seconds were the open guys on stages. And now even high round count stages are what, 23, 24 seconds?
Right. And then the other thing too is that you thinking about what you said about optics is just the how iron sight divisions are just basically like
gone.
Yeah. We have, for the Northwoods, we have 5 paid limited shooters.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Limited basically just keeled right over as soon as limited optics came out.
Yep.
Which sucks because limited's real fun.
Iron sights are lame.
Yeah, iron sights are kind of lame, but 40 is real fun. Major's fun.
Yes, 40 is fun, but
too bad you have to use the bumps to shoot it.
Well, speaking of power factor, do you guys think that we should get rid of major power factor?
I don't think so. It has its place.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think I've always said that with all this divisional stuff, that participation in the division is going to be the driving force behind its success. So if, you know, we have 5 limited shooters at the Northwoods, like that doesn't mean that, and I'm sure they're all shooting major. It doesn't mean that the division needs to go away or like, you know, you need to do something with it. Because there's not that many people participating in it anyway. So, you know, I don't think you need to do anything about it, you know. and I don't think it should go away.
No, there's definitely a difference between shooting a 40 cal limited gun and a 9mm limited gun.
Yeah. I mean, the
40 feels
divisions
like
where it's
you're actually getting some shit
applicable, I
done.
think the divisions that have it, I think it should stay there.
Right. Agreed.
All right, so off topic. Which division do you guys think needs the most change? I could start with this one. I
Go
think
ahead.
revolver needs to change. I think they need to allow an optic on a revolver if they want to keep that division alive. Because I want to shoot revolver, but then they don't allow a red dot on it. Yes, I know I could go into open division, but what's the point of shooting it in open division?
Sure,
You're
there's
not
no
going to be
point.
competing. You're not going to be competing against anyone, anyways, if you're
Yeah.
shooting a revolver. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and I agree with that, if only because of and like I'm not super familiar with sort of ICOR
Yeah.
Participation levels, but they, you can use red dots in
Yep.
some ICOR divisions,
Okay.
and I think that would help. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be its saving grace.
No,
This is coming from
I mean,
somebody who has participated fairly heavily in Revo for a period of time. And it's certainly fun, but the fact that you can beat anybody ever is a miracle,
Yeah.
It's embarrassing if you get beat by a revolver.
I didn't go that far, but I agree with the sentiment.
Yeah. I guess I don't see a reason to not allow a dot in revolver.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. Yeah, I think revolver should have just been an open division, or regardless if it has a red dot or irons. And I think what keeping people away from shooting revolver is that it costs so much just to start in a revolver division, and you pay so much just to shoot so slow. So that's
Right.
why I feel like revolver should have been it should have been open revolver and not just revolver.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, and a revolver sort of evolved though, and like maybe Rich can correct me if I'm wrong, but like back in the 90s, people would just shoot revolver in like what we considered like limited.
Well, there was only 2 divisions.
Yeah, like they called standard division.
And realize that the revolver at that time was also 6 shots.
Right. Well, but then I think they were all 7-shot 45s then.
Yeah, and so it's changed a lot, but I mean, all the work you did to your revolver to lighten the spring so the pull on the trigger, was less. But then you start having problems. My friend Sean, he only uses, I think it's Starline brass, because if he uses other brass, it swells up too much and it's hard to get out.
Yeah, there's a real rabbit hole in being competitive on the equipment side of revolver. And at some point you realize you are sitting there screwing with stuff and you go, what am I doing with my life? Like, this is
I can go back to limited optics.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. As far as like, in my opinion on the divisional change stuff, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think 15-round production was a good move, and but I could care less either way. People get real wrapped up in all this divisional changes and stuff, and like allowing this modification or that modification, like I don't really care. Everybody plays the same, the gun isn't as big of a factor as the shooter.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. It just doesn't, I don't get real fired up about it. I think that some mistakes were made in what they allowed to gun modifications in production. I have
about 7 years ago they messed up production.
Yeah, I have a Shadow 2 that has a bunch of, it's all built by Cajun Gun Works, like has a bunch of parts that are decidedly not production.
Yeah.
So I think that, but you can't go back now. Like you can't disallow this stuff. So, it's just the old, do you chip away at it, then all of a sudden you find that we've gone too far. What is this thing?
Well, look at what they did open. is open a real gun. You know,
Well, but open is open. Like
but
you
it's just, we all got, I remember the big outcry when PCC started.
Yeah.
We were letting a rifle into a pistol match and
Sure.
stuff. And if you sit back and think about it, it's just people coming out having fun.
Yeah, and but PCC is a good opportunity to give people a hard time.
Yeah.
That's really. I honestly, if whatever gun you have that you want to come out and shoot that gun. I don't care what you're shooting.
Yeah, I don't care either, but I'm not going to not seize the opportunity to give people a hard time. My favorite is when you're doing this written stage brief, and when you get to the PCC start position, they always say PCC start position is sitting in your car driving home.
Yes.
It's nice when there are no PCC shooters on your squad, so you don't have to read the secondary start position. But
yeah,
we give them a hard time, but at the end of the day, I don't really care. Like you're having, like you said, you're having a good time. Who cares? Like,
come on. When you watch Bug shoot his PCC with a big smile, you're like,
right. Facts.
And I'm definitely not going to give Andre shit for shooting a PCC.
No.
Because he can just go pick up an iron-sighted Glock and whoop my ass with that too. So
right.
But don't you guys think is much funner to shoot a rifle or / PCC in a USPSA stage than a rifle stage?
Is it more fun?
In my opinion, I think it's more fun because the target are closer, so you could blaze through it compared to like a rifle match.
Yeah.
The stage, the target's so far, and then you have to really take your time.
Sure, I mean it's a different discipline.
I think it's fun. I do it once a year probably.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why I'm complaining about Revolver, because I look at ICOR stages, they're really basic, and I'm not saying they're not hard, but I want it to be like USPSA style, but while shooting a Revolver. So that's why I'm complaining about the Revolver, because I want to shoot a red dot, not an iron.
Sure.
Just put a dot on your revolver and shoot an open.
I get it. Unfortunately, we don't have the power to fix that. But I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Get Andy Erickson on and tell him you want. Oh wait, you might have a different area director next year, and you know him. So
I heard that there was a vote to see if they allow red dot on Revolver, and supposedly a lot of people say no.
The hardcore Revolver shooters don't want any changes made to Revolver, and I guess I respect that.
Yeah.
All 8 of them.
All right.
There ain't many of them, but they were vocal.
Both of them.
Anything else, guys?
The only thing that I have is we're recording this on Monday, the 21st. I guess I don't know when this is going to come out, but we have the Vortex Northwood Showdown presented by JP Enterprises coming up here May 3rd and 4th. So I just want to take the opportunity, since I'm on here, to thank all the sponsors: Vortex, JP, Brass Monkey Bullets, AT3, Obsidian, Hunters HD Gold, Boaz Ammo, FGS Engineering, Not Another Shooter Show, Manny Talks Podcast, Gun Slaps, and the Chicago Gunslingers. All those companies and people have stepped up to provide things that we are going to give away at the match. Our prize table is basically 100% donated by all of those companies. And it's that kind of stuff, these companies that, let's face it, don't get huge amounts back out of it, so I just want to do my part, mentioning those people,
support the companies that support us.
And a lot of those companies, obviously Vortex out of Wisconsin, JP's out of Minnesota, AT3 Tactical's out of Minnesota, Obsidian is, they're stepping up and supporting us. So I want to thank them and encourage people to support them, because the matches would, especially bigger matches, would be a lot less fun if we didn't have their support. So we really appreciate it, and we would appreciate everybody
With the
listening
amount,
to
the amount
support
of
those
prizes
companies.
that they're giving us to give away allows MAPSA to give away money rather than buy prizes that people may or most likely do not want.
Right. Yep. And we finalized our payouts. The cutoff was Saturday night. I know Tim released it today, but it's $1,000 to win carry optics and $1,050 to win limited optics. Obviously all of our competitors aren't, necessarily in the running for that. But that's where we get into these manufacturers and companies stepping up, where we've got a pretty good list of prizes to give out. I think on the spreadsheet I'm at like 185 things to give out. So
there's a good chance you're going to go home with something cool.
With something. Yep. And then, obviously there's money there. And the people that are going to get that money are certainly going to be the ones that earned it. So.
And thanks to everybody that's volunteered to help.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
We have a huge group of volunteers this year. This year's match is going to be amazing.
Right. Yep.
So speaking of sponsorship, is there like an amount that we could help give to be considered like a donation? So for example, I would like to donate a little bit to the match, but then I can't even afford more than like, let's just say $200.
You don't have to give anything if you want to just you got stickers.
Yeah, we can discuss that, but we won't let's not discuss it on the podcast.
Yeah.
It ain't going to be that interesting.
Yeah.
But we can certainly, that's sort of my department in the match. So we'll discuss that off the podcast, because it probably won't make for real interesting. And I have some ideas, but stuff that might be better kept a secret. For a variety of reasons. So
sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. So that's all the question that we have and the time that we have. So for the viewers, where can they find you guys?
I'll be at the next MAPSA match and the front doing a shooters meeting. But as far as social media goes, that's like not. I mean, I have an Instagram. I'm 1010 RDC. But I don't think I've ever posted anything. You're not going to have a great time. So
no.
my contact information is listed on Minnetonka Game and Fish website.
Okay.
I don't even know what the name of my Instagram page is, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It's probably a little different than the people that you usually talk to, but we're speaking only for myself, my profile on the internet is pretty limited.
Yeah.
And by the way, can you guys tell me what Instagram is?
You can go see boobs on there, Rich.
No.
One thing I do want to add, Kue, that anybody that's considered shooting a match doesn't think they're good enough to shoot a match, come out and shoot a match.
Yes.
You're going to have a blast. You're going to be hooked. There's if you can safely handle a firearm, you can shoot a match.
Every club will do something to help you out. Every club will set you up with a mentor. They'll introduce you to people on your squad, and they will designate one of those people to kind of answer any questions for you, walk you through it, and help you through it.
Right. Our goal is always to try and build the sport. So the only way we do that is with new people coming in. Yeah. So we always do our best to encourage and help new shooters. And I get it's an intimidating thing. But you take that step and do it, and you're going to have a good time, and it's going to be fine. You'll be fine.
And you can meet cool guys like us.
Right.
Yep.
And others.
And Rich.
And Rich, too. Yeah. And Rich will also be there.
Yeah, I'll be the quiet one.
Yeah.
Unless you're not pasting.
Yeah, unless you're not.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming out tonight and talk with me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Right on. Thanks, Kue.
Yep. I'm gonna stop recording right now.